Thank you, ma'am.
Tonight, one small bolt, one giant success
Woohoo, it's moving out.
for the astronauts on a repair mission 350 miles above Earth. I'm Jeff Glor. Also tonight, Speaker Pelosi makes an explosive allegation.
You're accusing the CIA of lying to you in September of 2000.
But what did the Speaker know about waterboarding and when? The President calls for a crackdown on credit card companies.
The days of any time, any reason, anything goes, rate hikes and late fees, that must end.
And a new law to prevent what happened to this high school athlete from happening to anyone else.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
And good evening. Katie's off tonight. If you've ever struggled with a home repair job, trying to remove a bolt that just wouldn't budge, you have some small idea of what two astronauts were up against today. Only they were in bulky spacesuits, hundreds of miles above Earth, with the whole world watching as they began overhauling the Hubble Space Telescope. Tonight, they're back inside Atlantis as it circles high above. Correspondent Daniel Seberg and CBS News space consultant Bill Harwood are at the Johnson Space Center tonight. Gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening, Jeff. Bill, it seems there's never a dull moment when it comes to Hubble.
Daniel, the Hubble's been a roller coaster from day one, and this time there's no margin for error. This is NASA's last chance to sharpen Hubble's vision and extend its life.
And even though astronauts have been training for years, today was anything but routine. Orbiting some 350 miles above the Earth, spacewalkers John Grunsfeld, a three-time Hubble visitor,
Oh, this is fantastic.
and rookie Drew Feustel emerged from the shuttle airlock, part astronaut, part tourist.
Hey, Matt, where are we? The huge river down there. Hey, Drew, we're coming up on the coast of Africa right now.
Their mission, to remove Hubble's old interstellar camera and replace it with a much more powerful one. But almost immediately, a major glitch, a stubborn bolt.
It's still flipping. Okay, buddy. Hey, that was a great try, though. I really appreciate you guys working so hard out there.
Firmly balanced on the end of the shuttle's robotic arm, Feustel, who loves to restore old cars, needed an essential tool in space: elbow grease, along with his socket wrench.
How far can we go with this, and what are the implications if I over-torque and break the bolt?
It would have been a scientific disaster. I mean, this camera is the #1 priority from a science perspective for the entire mission. And if they had broken that bolt, they wouldn't have been able to get the old camera out and the new camera in.
Now, he's doing all that while wearing one of these bulky, pressurized astronaut gloves. Is that the biggest difficulty for him while he's up there?
It's uncomfortable, and it can be, but in this case, I think the real issue was he's anchored to the end of the shuttle's robot arm. As he's moving that big wrench around, it tends to rotate your body the other way. It's not a solid footing.
After 45 very tense minutes,
Woohoo, it's moving out. Great job. Great news. Well, this has been in there for 16 years, Drew. It didn't want to come out.
the bulky bolt now removed,
Back to our regularly scheduled programming.
it was onto the delicate task of removing the old camera, 600 pounds on Earth, but not an ounce in the zero gravity of space.
Okay, Megan, I'm ready to start coming out of the telescope.
The new camera will greatly improve on the already stunning images. That old one may end up in the Smithsonian, since it has been a history maker, helping scientists better understand the age of the universe, now estimated between 13 to 14 billion years.
And they're really hoping to push the frontier back to within a few 100 million years of the Big Bang. They want to see how stars first assembled themselves into the galaxies we see around us today.
The astronauts also replaced a small computer on Hubble that had previously malfunctioned, completing this first spacewalk in 7, sometimes anxious hours.
We got the Hubble and gave Hubble a hug, but in traditional Hubble fashion, Hubble threw us a few curves.
The interesting thing, this was supposed to be the easiest spacewalking day of them all. Bill, what's next?
4 very busy spacewalks are going to install 1 more new instrument, try to repair 2 others, install 6 batteries, 6 gyroscopes. Very tricky work, and those instrument repairs are much more complicated than what we've seen so far.
All right, and those new images from Hubble could be available around Labor Day. Jeff?
All right, gentlemen, fascinating stuff. Thank you very much tonight. Now to the red-hot issue of waterboarding. The CIA today denied a request by former Vice President Cheney to release memos he says will show that harsh interrogation methods like waterboarding do work. Meanwhile, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi denied today that she was complicit in the waterboarding of terror suspects. She insisted she wasn't told waterboarding had been used and she accused the CIA of lying. Justice correspondent Bob Orr has this story.
Rebutting charges that she knew about waterboarding nearly 7 years ago and raised no objections, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi today launched an offensive.
They mislead us all the time.
In uncommonly strong language, Pelosi accused the CIA and the Bush administration of skirting the truth about the treatment of al-Qaeda terror suspects.
Madam Speaker, just to be clear, you're accusing the CIA of lying to you in September of 2002.
Misleading the Congress of the United States.
Pelosi says she was only briefed once about harsh interrogation methods and was not told waterboarding was being used against top al-Qaeda detainees. In a rare public response, the CIA pointed to recently released documents that raised questions about Pelosi's account. This declassified Justice Department memo shows that Abu Zubaydah was waterboarded at least 83 times in August 2002. Pelosi was briefed after that on September 4th, 2002. According to CIA records, she was told about, quote, EITs, enhanced interrogation techniques on Abu Zubaydah, and a description of particular EITs that had been employed. While the word waterboarding was not used, the CIA's description of the meeting suggests Pelosi was told Zubaydah had been waterboarded. Pelosi denies that.
In fact, we were told that waterboarding was not being used.
But Republicans say Pelosi and other Democrats were fully in the loop. Between 2002 and 2007, CIA records show Intelligence Committee members from both parties received at least 28 classified briefings on harsh interrogations.
It's pretty clear that they were well aware of what these enhanced interrogation techniques were. They were well aware that they had been used.
Pelosi is pushing for a so-called Truth Commission to sort out who knew what when. But that could be a perilous course for Republicans and Democrats. Bob Orr, CBS News, Washington.
We have an update now on Monday's shooting rampage at a U.S. military stress clinic in Iraq, in which a soldier gunned down 2 military doctors and 3 other servicemen. CBS News has learned the suspect, Sergeant John Russell, was furious with doctors at the clinic, complaining they didn't believe he was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. The bodies of 3 victims arrived at Dover Air Force Base last night. In other news tonight, President Obama called today for passage of a bill headed tonight for Senate approval that would crack down on abuses by credit card companies. But he also scolded Americans who run up more debt than they can handle, reminding them, quote, it's not free money. 78% of American households, that is more than 91 million, have 1 or more credit cards, and the average outstanding balance is well over $10,000. Here's Nancy Cordes.
At a town hall meeting in New Mexico today, the president charged credit card companies with pulling a bait and switch.
Now fees silently appear. Payment deadlines suddenly move. Millions of cardholders have seen their interest rates jump in the past 6 months.
He called for a crackdown on the industry, just as the Senate is poised to deliver it. The legislation would curb seemingly random rate hikes by banning interest increases on past purchases and on new accounts less than a year old. Promotional rates would have to last at least 6 months, and lenders would have to give 45 days notice of a rate boost. Bank of America gave this Chicago couple no notice or explanation when it hiked their rate by 11 points last month.
Good people who pay their bills and who have jobs and you know, are sort of struggling through this economy, get penalized. It makes no sense.
The bill also takes aim at excessive penalties, banning fees for paying online or over the phone, and requiring companies to mail bills 21 days before the due date. In a letter to Congress, bankers warned the bill would jeopardize access to credit.
Credit card companies hate it like the devil hates holy water.
Particularly painful is a blanket ban on marketing cards to kids who are college age and younger.
Does it seem to you like they're targeting that 10-year-old to 14-year-old? Nice little pink thing with a kitty. Hello.
Consumer groups say after a decade of successfully resisting reform, the credit lenders were finally outdone by their own greed.
I think for the first time, consumers are actually upset and angry.
The bill is expected to pass, but there's a catch. Most of these reforms would not kick in for 9 months to a year. Jeff?
All right, Nancy Cordes in Washington tonight. Nancy, thank you. From credit card debt to borrowed time now. That is what Chrysler's on as it struggles for survival. Detroit's number 3 car maker told a bankruptcy court today it wants to cut loose 789 of its nearly 3,200 dealers, about 1 of 4. Mark Strassman tells us they got the word today in a letter delivered by UPS.
They all got the letter. Howard Sells, a 44-year Chrysler dealer in Los Angeles.
These are extraordinary times and blah, 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 blah.
Stanley Balzikas, a Chicago fixture for 70 years. As Chrysler dealers, they're done. No new shipments, and the signs have to come down by June 9th.
There's no feeling for it at all. It's just that this is it, kids.
In all, a quarter of all Chrysler dealers will close. The bad news reached from coast to coast.
Why me? That's the question.
And many dealers felt betrayed.
I want an explanation from somebody.
The explanation? Last year, too many Chrysler dealers sold too few cars. Of the major car makers, the average Chrysler franchise sold 1/8 as many vehicles as the typical Toyota franchise. Both Chrysler and General Motors want only their strong to survive.
They'll be profitable enough to better take care of the customer, and that's what they haven't been able to do.
And tomorrow is expected to be Black Friday for 1,000 GM dealers. GM will notify them their franchise agreements won't be renewed next year. And it's just the first wave of even more dealer closings for the company. Many GM dealers have a sense of what's coming. GM recently evaluated each of them in a dealer performance summary, scoring each dealer for sales and cash on hand, along with customer satisfaction and profitability. A score of 100 or less, and a dealership's in trouble. Outside Atlanta, this dealership's 43 employees know it's on shaky ground.
I think they've accepted that we're doing all that we can do to stay in business, and it's out of our hands.
But many won't make it, as Chrysler dealers learned today.
The hardest part is coming here looking at an empty lot. We'll be back.
Chrysler says there's no appeal, so for many dealers it's over. But others will try selling used cars or hiring lawyers. Mark Strassman, CBS News, Atlanta.
Coming up next year, a CBS News exclusive about a brewing scandal, possible insider trading inside the Securities and Exchange Commission. It failed to uncover the Bernard Madoff scam. Many believe they were asleep at the switch during much of the Wall Street meltdown. And now there's new trouble for the Securities and Exchange Commission. CBS News has learned some SEC employees are under investigation for possible insider trading, a crime they're supposed to stop. Our chief investigative correspondent, Armin
CBS News has learned that 2 attorneys at the Securities and Exchange Commission are under active criminal investigation by the FBI for trading stocks based on inside information. Accusations against the 2 lawyers, a man and a woman whose names have not been released, are detailed in this SEC Inspector General's report obtained exclusively by CBS News.
We ought to be outraged if there's one insider trading information that's leading to personal profit, because we should not be putting personal gain above the public's trust.
An investigation by the SEC Inspector General found both the male attorney who works in the Office of Chief Counsel and the female attorney charged with enforcing SEC rules traded in the stock of a large financial services company. This despite being told of ongoing investigations of that company, according to another SEC employee. That's a direct violation of SEC rules. In another possible violation, the male attorney sent emails from his office account to family members, recommending particular stocks. As for the female attorney, the report states that 2 months before an investigation of a large healthcare company was opened, she sold all of her shares of stock in the company. And 2 days before an inquiry was opened by her friend who occupies the office next to her, the woman sold all her stock in an oil company. Investigators say she traded stocks 247 times between January 2006 and January 2008. She told investigators, "It's my main hobby. It's my passion." Both attorneys who deny any wrongdoing still work at the SEC.
There's got to be a process put in place so that there's something that is almost automatic in catching these things going on.
The office's investigative unit.
Inspector General David Kotz, who uncovered the alleged insider trading, declined a formal request for an interview, citing the ongoing investigation. But in a brief encounter not far from his office, Kotz had this to say.
The SEC is charged with bringing cases of securities violations, including insider trading. So
it's important that they have a compliance system in place.
In a statement late today, the SEC noted that no employee has been formally accused of insider trading and that it has taken several steps to guard against improper conduct, including the hiring of a compliance officer, all in an effort to better police the people who are supposed to be policing the stock market. Armin Katayan, CBS News, Washington.
Coming up next year, children fighting cancer. A new kind of treatment brings new hope. In the battle against one of the deadliest forms of cancer in children, a new therapy is showing dramatic results. Research out today says it helps the patient's own immune system fight the disease. Here's Dr. John LaPook.
Whoa, that's out of here.
Today, there's no stopping 8-year-old Brian Mullen on the wiffle ball field.
Nice one. Home run.
But 7 years ago, his parents were concerned by an unusual number of bumps on his head.
Cancer did not cross my mind at all. At all.
After several trips to the doctor, the Mullins received the worst possible news.
They said it was a very aggressive cancer, and we had to get started treatment right away.
It was neuroblastoma, a rare but deadly form of childhood cancer. Although barely a toddler, Brian received aggressive therapy, chemotherapy, surgery, radiation, and stem cell transplantation. But then his doctor offered an additional step, an experimental treatment called immunotherapy. Antibodies that target the cancer are injected into the bloodstream and attached to the tumor cell. Once tagged with antibody, the cancer can be more easily recognized and attacked by the body's own white blood cells.
It was a success, so I hope it works on all other kids.
In results released today, immunotherapy improved the outcomes of patients with advanced neuroblastoma. After 2 years, 46% receiving standard treatment alone were free of tumor recurrence, versus 66% of those like Brian who also received the antibody.
It's wonderful to be able to go and talk to a parent and say that the odds of being cured has increased dramatically.
Brian likes his odds, and he isn't looking back.
I've been through it. It was the past, okay? Time to move on.
You gotta love Brian. This new treatment is still experimental, but it's a step forward in the promising strategy of manipulating a person's own immune system to fight cancer. Jeff?
That is great news, and we love Brian. Dr. John LaPook, thank you very much tonight. And one other medical note, if you're taking a prescription drug made by Pfizer and you lose your job and health insurance, not to worry. The company said today if you've been on the drug at least 3 months, it will give it to you for free for up to a year. Any of 70 Pfizer drugs from Lipitor to, yes, Viagra. We'll be right back. For generations, when young athletes got hurt, they were told to shake it off and get back in the game. But consider this. Each year, 135,000 children suffer traumatic brain injuries while playing. Today, Sandra Hughes tells us Washington State enacted groundbreaking new protections in the name of an injured athlete.
Zachary Lystad has always been a fierce competitor. So at 13, when he took a hard hit in a football game, he shook it off and 15 minutes later was back in the game. He collapsed on the field.
I was begging God to keep him alive.
He spent 30 days in a coma, diagnosed with a second impact concussion.
One of the doctors was talking to his colleagues and saying, well, you know, he might wake up, as if it was a rare miracle that he would even wake up.
Every day has been a miracle on his long journey out of darkness. When CBS News first visited Zach 2 years ago, he was unable to move his legs or speak. With relentless rehabilitation, his progress has been nothing short of amazing.
How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good.
The Lystads have never known how far Zach can come back, but they are certain of one thing.
We don't want another family to go through what we're going through.
A concussion is a brain injury, and all brain injuries are serious.
A recent survey of 100 high schools found of the more than 1,300 athletes with concussions, 41% went back into the game too soon.
It's very important for the brain to have enough time to heal adequately.
That's why Zach's family has been lobbying.
His purpose, I think, in life now is to change other people's lives.
Today, the family watched as the governor of Washington signed the most far-reaching legislation in the nation to protect kids from concussions. Zach showed his appreciation like a typical teenager. Under the Zachary Lystedt law, a young athlete showing any signs of a concussion will have to get the approval of a medical professional before allowed to play again.
And this is a great day for Zachary. It's a great day for the state. It's going to be a great day for the country.
Supporters want to take the law nationwide. Zach is grateful.
Thank you for everything.
That his tragedy may prevent so many others. Sandra Hughes, CBS News, Los Angeles.
That is the CBS Evening News tonight. I'm Jeff Glor. Katie's back tomorrow, and I hope to see you on the Saturday Evening News as well. Good night.